Damn, I think it's working. We're live. Welcome to a live version of Villaincast. Is this live now? Yes. Welcome to a live version of Villaincast, Reap the Week. This is on YouTube Live. If anyone's listening to this in the future on Podbean, Podcast, Spotify, or even YouTube, I guess. The reason I'm doing it alone is Lanky is on Ramadan, which means this normally falls into the time where he is coming off fast, etc. So he can't do this for the next couple of weeks, which means you're stuck with me. This is live. This is on YouTube, and hey, if anyone wants to jump on the live chat, please send me any questions. I will be reading it hopefully as I just ramble on. We're going for about an hour, maybe. Depends how things go. I may end up talking longer. I may go in the next 10 minutes. It has been a while since we did a Reap the Week. The last one was about a reaction to the podcast debate between Preet and Andy from School of Grappling, I think it is. Hopefully people got something out of that one. So the first topic I wanted to go through was actually one that kind of featured a bit in the Discord channel today. This has been heavily, not heavily, but mentioned a little bit on the Discord channel that I'll be doing this YouTube Live. So hopefully people after you Discord will be jumping onto this. Conversation today was whether guard is a true bottom position, as in the idea that you don't want to be on your back in jiu-jitsu. If you're on your back, you're losing. Can guard be classified as being on your back and in a detrimental way? Yes and no. Depends on the sport. One of the things I was trying to make a point of on the Discord channel was if you imagine like a huge rock mass, whatever you want to call it, that is grappling, that has always existed, then every style that's kind of come after that, judo, aikido, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, etc., has always been just a fragment of that larger block of grappling. So we hey Nak, should have found a way that you could do this as well. I mean, slightly off topic because I'm reading the chat at the same time. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. Yeah. Well, Aikido is a form of grappling. It's just a very, very, very small section of grappling that's mostly useless. Theoretically, actually, if you think of that, like we, by knowing more of grappling, know Aikido. I'm pretty sure that I could get a black belt in Aikido if I wanted to. I don't see the point in it, but theoretically it could happen. Because I have a wider understanding of grappling than they do. I kind of surround them, as it were. Just so anyone listening, Lanky is because should make a book. No one wants to read that. Lanky is on the chat here. Lanky has joined in. Hopefully, I am. There is a home gym coming, or when we just get back in the gym in general, we'll try and like do live versions of this with Lanky and myself, where we can answer questions live and actually demonstrate techniques, which would be super awesome. Anyway, the idea of where does this huge, massive grappling idea come from? I don't know. I think in the podcast with Johnny Buck, we did talk about this. About trying to flesh out a little bit here and how I kind of approach the idea is there's a huge, massive grappling. Grappling is just about how do you apply science, physics, biology to human beings and to a combat sport. Like jiu-jitsu is just those things. Like leverage and moment is physics. Pressure is physics. the way you manipulate a human body is biology. And we just interpret those machines, we interpret those concepts, and we get the techniques out the other end. Um, so that is the wider picture. And the more you kind of try and see the wider picture of what grappling is, Jiu-Jitsu falls into that. That there was the discussion on Josh Barnett getting a BJJ black belt, despite the fact he's never done BJJ. I've never done BJJ. Like, just wait there, the numbers have gone down. I never actually done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I came in through submission wrestling. We only bought gis because it was cold. Like the gym hit minus. The numbers have definitely gone down. The gym hit minus 10, 14, minus 14 degrees Celsius one year, and it was really cold. So we bought gis, and so we're just the no gi guys who wore gi. Which then over time meant that with enough training, we started to actually understand grappling, that it didn't actually matter that we were wearing the jacket or not. And that's kind of like been the catalyst for most of the things that have come afterwards. Like, we've understood grappling enough that we do classify as understand, getting belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, despite the fact I am of no lineage to BJJ. I've never actually been a member of any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. Wow, genuinely, people are jumping on. Well, I guess it makes only a few since Naki's here. So going back to this idea of the great big grappling and guard, and where does it fit in? The way I always explain Jiu-Jitsu to beginners is Jiu-Jitsu is just wrestling. And actually, if you look at it in that way, and I've been teaching classes on this, and I get the question like, oh, so is wrestling kind of the glue that holds Jiu-Jitsu together? And like, you've seen the wrong picture. Jiu-Jitsu is wrestling. Like, it's all wrestling. In that, if you actually look at the pre stuff and like you see it as a defensive thing or whatever, no matter where we have been in human history and culture, like, we've always done like three things, and two of them is one is conversation and communication, and the other one is wrestling. Try and figure out what the third thing is. And it doesn't matter where or when in human history that has been. Like, it could be Far Eastern styles of wrestling, from Mongolia, the Far East, from India, Pakistan, from Iran, Persian wrestling. It could be the other side. It could be Scandinavian Gleamer wrestling. Oh, damn! Hey, Vim. It could be that form of wrestling. It could, like, it's how Vikings kind of settled disputes. It could be Pancrase from ancient Roman Greek times. It could be British styles of wrestling that have existed, that have formed catch and the various folk styles afterwards, and everything that kind of came around that. We've always reached the same conclusion: is you put someone on their back and they are dead. They can't get up. Our arms and legs only work forwards. So if you put us on our back, that's the end. Like, the dispute is over. And so a lot of the pre-defensive system or whatever is, how do I safely turn to my front? Which seems really weird in jiu-jitsu, in that we've kind of made this huge habit of, how do I fight? I want to fight on my back. Cool. But because we've kind of gone down that rabbit hole of fighting on our back and getting quite good at fighting on our back, when we come across people who can roll to their front, i.e. wrestlers or this defensive style, it seems really alien. Yet it's just what we've always done. Like, jiu-jitsu is kind of an outlier in this whole thing, is that everywhere ever has always been, you go to your back, you can't get up. And we just, in jiu-jitsu, went, well, yeah, I can't get up, but I could maybe still, give you a rough time. I think it was actually something, it was like a conversation with Ryan Hall or something, when he was on about guard, and that in his earlier belts, when, like, it was a purple belt or whatever, he played a lot of guard. He was obviously well known for his triangle game and etc. They talked about Roger Gracie and said Roger Gracie is obviously very, very good, but what sets him apart is that he might not actually have been skillfully better. I'm not sure that that's what Ryan said, but I'm kind of taking my own interpretation of it here. Is that Roger's style was beyond top? Like he is, if I am on the bottom, I am understanding that I need to overcome your skill plus the natural attributes of you being mobile and have gravity on your side with the skill of me using my four limbs, my four weapons, my arms and my legs. So I'm overcoming your skill plus those attributes in the hope that my skill on my back of my arms and legs overcomes all those things. That's a kind of a tall order, and that's making a hell of an assumption. Why not use your skill, but on top as well, and have those natural attributes? And so as good as someone can be in jiu-jitsu, if you are close in skill, maybe not as good as them, you have more of an advantage to win if you're on top, because you have gravity and mobility on your side, which that's why Roger was kind of like, the king, during his heyday, is that he just kept on getting to mount and he kept on just choking guys out. And that's why I think one thing that Ryan said is that he was then going to try and more adopt that kind of style of, screw being on my back, especially when you're against killers at black belt level. I'm going to be the guy on top. And Preet's style is don't end up on your back. Like, you have Baby Bridge, Vim's here. Hey, Vim. Baby Bridge, you have Running Man, you have Hawkins, you have the turtle game. It's all about, like, how do I get off that angle? How do I cut that diagonal that I can now get to my front and get up? When you're flat, I think of that, they call it that 2.3, 0.4 point pin or whatever in wrestling. If your shoulders or hips on your flat, you ain't getting up. But it's the same with us in general. If you lie flat on your back, it's super hard to actually stand upright. You have to go to a side first. You have to get a shoulder and a hip off the floor if you want to stand upright. How's that any different to this defensive style? It is making sure that never happens. It's basic wrestling 101. So where does this kind of all fit into jiu-jitsu then? This is jiu-jitsu. So this idea of like Josh Barnett, hey Parker, this idea that Josh, he's never done jiu-jitsu. Well, he has. It's what jiu-jitsu is. So the guard, where does that fit in? Is going back to that idea of it is using 4 weapons. Yeah, it's too many labels. Why it's just grappling. You have this. I'll come out. Actually, remind me of that, Knack. I'll come back to that in a minute. If you have, God, I keep like, it's great. I love actually like seeing this chat like appear at the side, but my God, it's taken my attention. Like I have some sort of disorder because it's like, oh, things are happening. I need to read over there. Anyone reading this on like listen to this on like podcast afterwards, like yeah, it's super confusing. Or even just yeah, I'll try and make more sense of it. This is an interesting experiment. Shut up. That's really not helpful. Yeah, so the idea of God, my God. You are overcoming their attributes of mobility and gravity, and you are flat on your back. What do? You use guard, which is you're increasing your weapon load from 2 to 4. You're bringing your legs in. So if you had to explain guard to a brand new beginner in jiu-jitsu, that's literally it. As in, I want you to use your legs to fight me when you're on your back. If you can't get up, use your legs to fight me. That's guard. And because of that increased weapon load, you have opportunities for sweeps and you have opportunities for submissions. And in gi jiu-jitsu, yeah, it was mentioned earlier. It has in sport jiu-jitsu, it has a higher rate of success. But that's just because, like, if anyone's ever had a child, trying to pick up a dead-weighted human is an absolute swine. And so, it kind of like defeats a lot of takedowns when you're already on the ground anyway. And it just becomes then like some sort of weird horizontal judo, is that you can actually see a lot of the relationships between jiu-jitsu sweeps and judo sweeps. Like I'll probably murder the sweep, but like scissor sweep is not too dissimilar to like maybe like a Kosa Ogari or something. I'm gonna come back to those. Cool. I've got the chat with me, so I might have to scroll a little bit in a second, but I will come back to these. I just wanted to get the chat moving as people arrived. Damn it. God, yes. Anyway, I might leave that there. It is all on the Discord channel. It's a really interesting thing to go and read. It works. Obviously, it works. It works in MMA, but pulling guard in MMA rarely works. Like, we normally laugh at those people, but I'm pretty sure that discussion is going to get a bit bigger. Maybe I should flesh it out for the next one where I have less people asking me questions. Right. Let's go back up. Will grappling BJJ always be in a niche market? Will grappling BJJ always be in a niche market? I think it's becoming much bigger than it ever has been. We are becoming way more visible to the rest of humanity. Will it become as big as like judo or anything like that? I think those things ain't big. Like I'd actually say we're probably one of the bigger martial arts now anyway. And so I'm thinking of the next question whilst I'm answering this one. As far as martial arts go, maybe it won't be the same as like karate and everything. They've been in the public consciousness for way longer than we have. But by and large, yeah, I think we are pretty much as good as a grappling art will ever be. I don't think you'll actually find many more people many more clubs, martial art styles actually getting past us when it comes to grappling numbers. That being said, like, jiu-jitsu can be done by everyone. That's true. But I think the way we teach jiu-jitsu and the way it can be like my favorite thing is that idea of leave your ego at the door when you come to jiu-jitsu. Like, never happens at all. Like, you have to have ego if you have any drive in you to succeed. How you control your ego, that's different, but you need it if you want to actually win in anything. So it doesn't get left at the door. Yeah, because maybe we don't temper it as well as we can. It then does affect other people, and other people get put off. And as Preet has said, the way we actually teach jiu-jitsu then is we kind of like, I'm going back into the history of fighting fit here. It was always a case of it's going to be rough. Sorry, if it's not for you, there's the door. And because of that kind of mentality, we never really kept anyone. It wasn't until we kind of adopted this combat sports approach of this is the defense, this is how to stop everything from happening. Like, I've had a couple of say affiliate clubs start with me, and they want to be under the whatever branch I am, and I was trying to give them a good basis to like, how do you start this then? And so what I said to them was, day one, just get them to spar. Like, if you had like a class of brand new beginners and like no one else really showed jiu-jitsu, get them to spar. Just say, I want you to hold down the other guy, girl, whatever, person, and try and hold them down. Pretend you're 8 years old and you're fighting at school. I just want to hold them down. Then to walk them to the side and I say, put some tape. If you have to, like, draw a line on your elbow, put some tape on your elbow, whatever, like 2 inches past your elbow onto your forearm, and hold that into your hip. And I just want to keep that there no matter what. I don't want you to fight. I just want to keep that there. And then all of a sudden they can't get pinned. Nothing bad happens to them. And I'll then do that to them. Is I'll try and fight them, and I just want to hold them in that ball position. I can't submit them. This is black belt versus day one beginner, and I can't submit them. I can't pin them. I can't do anything. I say, right, that there, if you can get back to that, no matter when you feel vulnerable, you will always be fine. Like, that's it. That's the cure for all jiu-jitsu. Just ball up. Just keep everything super tight. And you'll always be fine in jiu-jitsu. And so then they have an idea that whenever they start to have bad things happen to them when they're rolling, they just need to go back there. They've got an answer for everything on day one. If you don't like this, just return to that. And then you don't have that suffering in jiu-jitsu where people are just bullied and they don't know what's happening because the egos of the higher belts just want them to suffer. And we try and everyone, I love it. I love it when new people start and they come in like everyone's so excited. Oh my god, we've got new people. I need to teach them all about jiu-jitsu. And you teach them, oh, this is a cool guard called De La Hiva. It's like this person has zero idea what a guard is right now. What the fuck are you doing? But everyone just loves jiu-jitsu. Everyone's super excited about it. And it's super confusing. Like I know I rag on traditional martial arts but they have got something good going for them in that they have a structure where you have very, very basics at the beginning and a drip fed way of learning everything. As much as I don't want that in jiu-jitsu, there is a benefit to having it. And I think we need to adopt a little bit of that. And I think that's what I've been trying to do in the club, in that I need to give people like these absolute basics that they can then save themselves. And as long as you can get rid of that misery, I think you'll keep more people. So in regards to it being niche, I think we make it too niche. I think we make it niche by our own stupid actions. I think if we actually teach it better, I think it won't be as niche and we can get more people in the door and keep them, which is only a good thing. Like, not in a business sense that I want more students on the mats. I just want, I love this sport, and the more people who do it, the better. Do body types play a role in BJJ? What moves would you recommend for a lanky guy to learn? I'm relatively lanky. I'm about 6'2", 187 centimeters, 100 whatever that is. About the same number, I think. So I'm relatively lanky. What I would say is, as long as you're taught kind of the principles of control, leverage, and all those, it doesn't really matter too much on body type. Like, this is again a bugbear of mine, is I don't want to teach people my game. My game suits my personality, my body type, my age, whatever. It's always adapting. I don't want to copy mine. Naki is a very, very different personality and body type to me. It's awfully athletic, moves like a silverback, and super powerful. So there's no point Naki having my game either. But as long as he understands what he's looking for when it comes to leverage, when it comes to unbalancing, when it comes to choke theory, sweep theory, when it comes to control, guard theory, when it comes to above and below, when it comes to joint locks, etc., then he can adapt his own game to it. I think as soon as you understand that, you have a better understanding of actually what techniques you have available to you. If you just get a list of techniques, it wouldn't work. Like, there's been many times I've seen, like, say, because I normally one of the lanky techniques is to do triangles. Except when you've got really lanky legs and you've got someone who's got a really small body type in front of you, like, triangles suddenly don't work. Like, you need short, stubby legs. But that's when I had that opinion of just techniques for lanky body types instead of understanding choke theory. And then I fixed my triangles. So now, no matter, even if I'm against someone who's really, really broad, like, I don't even have to close up my triangle. I can still finish it because I understand what I'm actually hunting for. It's like I've got really long arms. And so darces work well when it's the right body type to do them on. Sometimes I'm against guys who've got really narrow shoulders and I can't, my arms are too big. I'll then change it to something else. Or against guys who are super broad, then I won't even go for that, as long as I understand what I'm actually hunting for when it comes to the accuracy. So I think as long as you have those and those principles, you will adapt your jiu-jitsu no matter what your body type is, relation to the person you're doing it to. I think that's one of the important parts of that. Pardon me. That serves me right for drinking coffee. What tools? What tools do you recommend to study jiu-jitsu alone? Watching matches, solo drills, notebook. I think I said this in a podcast of Naki, is that if you could download jiu-jitsu into your head, compared to something like gymnastics, which you definitely need the body type, the athleticism, the flexibility to do gymnastics. You can't just download a move into your head and put it off because you will die. Jiu-Jitsu, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure you can download like 99% of Jiu-Jitsu your head because none of it relies on those physical attributes. Like even cardio to an extent, like I'd say my cardio is roughly the same as it was when I first started Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe it's actually worse, except I just know when to use it now. Like all those kind of like we always say, oh, jiu-jitsu is just a different type of cardio, man. Like, no matter what you come from, like you could be a good runner or a good lifter, you come in and it's just going to tire you out. No, no. If you're just relatively fit, like jiu-jitsu is fine. It's just that we don't know when to use that strength when you first start, and when you get more experience, you just know when to use it. So yeah, downloading the if you could download jiu-jitsu into your head. So as long as you're just like it's the more, don't worry about the physical things you can do at home. Don't think you need to do shrimps around your carpet to get better at jiu-jitsu because movements without context are pointless. Like the more you just think and watch and try and understand jiu-jitsu and apply the concepts and just most of the time, I'm getting better at jiu-jitsu just because I'm doing stuff like this, just talking about it, just like trying to explain things, and then I'm like, oh shit, I never even thought of it that way. Like, so take these concepts and then try and explain them to people. Like, you'll realize that your jiu-jitsu just gets better because of that. And then next time you go in the gym, you're like, damn, can I try this out? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, my jiu-jitsu is better now. So watching matches, but not, you can watch matches. People watch matches of everything. Like you can watch matches of football or whatever and, not get better at football because of it, because you might not have context for actually what they're doing. Like so as long as you can kind of have the rough concepts in your head of what's happening first and actually see those kind of small details, I think it'll actually make learning easier than just saying, oh damn, that looks cool. Now I don't really understand fully boxing, so I can't figure out all those kind of really fine details that good boxers would see in a good boxing fight. If I had those understanding of those concepts, I'm sure I could actually take a lot more out of boxing. This is important for jiu-jitsu practitioners to create their own guards or moves early as white or blue, or should practitioners have an understanding of fundamentals first? I'd say and this is kind of like my favorite way of explaining jiu-jitsu right now, is it's taught, if you imagine it from maths, I'm assuming we all went to school and did maths. When you're taught maths or anything like that in school, you're taught, times table, for example, or sums, equations. You're taught, 3 times 3 equals 9. 4 times 4 equals 16. The problem with jiu-jitsu is we just teach like the sum, 3 times 3 equals 9. Just remember, if you see this bunch of shapes, that's the answer. And we never explain what a times is. And we expect people just to remember hundreds of sums just in case that sum comes up at some point in the future. And then, you have a sum that you haven't seen before, like a 10 times 10. And you go, oh, I don't know what the hell that means. I haven't seen that sum before. So then you go to your coach and you ask, well, what if I say 10 times 10? And so I think it's more important then, even from day one, and I'll argue this to the fucking end, that when you're teaching jiu-jitsu, it should be you're teaching what a times is, what a plus is, what a minus is, and you're giving examples of it. The techniques we have are just examples. So I'm like, right, this is what a times is. To do help with this is a 3 times 3, okay, equals 9. Right. This is a 4 times 4 equals 16. Right. Here's a 5 times 5. Try and figure it out. Right. Now they've got an idea what times is. So you give them basic sums and they figure it out. And then further down the line, they have more advanced sums and they have opportunities to then actually figure it out on the fly. So it needs to be a full mind, a shift in mindset of how we actually see jiu-jitsu. Is that it should be this way of I need to fuck you, Knack. I kind of led into that one, didn't I? Big Shack. Fuck you! I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, I think it needs to be a complete mindset change in that we need to actually have people understanding. Now, I'll definitely do that in club next time. It needs to be a full mindset change that we don't have we don't expecting techniques, we're expecting trying to help figure out the sums, and we get answers to those sums when to help us as does as you would like a workbook in maths or something. I hope that makes sense. I think my internet started to slow down. Sorry, is this turning to crap a little bit? Has my internet gone weird? Knack, you'll help me. Is it in bits or is it coming across fine? That's cool. Okay, that's fine then. How did you develop your own style of jiu-jitsu? I'm pretty sure, yeah, that as in jiu-jitsu isn't a list of techniques handed down by some deity on a stone tablet on top of a mountain 100 years ago to a Mr. Gracie. It is physics and biology. It's maths, whatever. We did a bunch of sums and we figured out a bunch of answers. And that's what gets taught. And we become obsessive, just rote learning all those sums and answers instead of just understanding the initial science behind it. I think if you can understand the science behind it, you will invent jujitsu again. If I, it's always been like I created a beginner course, like it was 8-week course, and I taught the different concept each week, and it worked out really well. But I taught the guard concept about controlling the 5 points, one behind the head, 2 armpits, 2 legs with your 4 weapons. I said, if you find any of those 5 points, I want you to just control it and not let it go. I had guys on day 2, never seen a guard, inventing De La Hiva. That's insane for me. These guys actually invented De La Hiva just because I said I want you to control those 5 points as much as you can with the 4 limbs that you have. Then, the other person got on the floor and they invented half guard. They invented close guard. They'd never seen it, and here they are inventing it. I think we need to give ourselves more credit if we actually look at it this way. What made you prefer leg lock game? This kind of goes back into that whole kind of big grappling mass thing, is that, jiu-jitsu didn't have a leg lock game. The grappling mass had a leg lock game. And so because I don't do jiu-jitsu, why not just bring in the leg locks? And they're giant joints. Now you think that you want to control above and below the one you want. Arms are really small. There's no way I'm ever going to get Naki's arm. It's too short and too powerful. But his legs are bigger. And that's just, again, it's problem solving with jiu-jitsu. I need a limb to go grab onto. The short one ain't going to work. I'll go for the big one. At least I'm sure it's his leg. You have to help me with that one, Naki. Was it your leg? In the podcast, you say you didn't like testing for belts and stripes, etc. What was the reason? I called it like a string, where everyone has their journey from it's everyone has their this. I have this picture for what someone's going to be at the end, as a black belt. The more I get to know them, as I kind of know the kind of black belt they roughly may be. Third leg. And so I'm expecting that kind of progression, and I understand the concept of each belt. So white belt is the belt of defense. This is the belt where you have to understand all the concepts of jiu-jitsu to make the bad things stop happening to you. To no longer move like a human being, you move like a grappler. Blue belt is that you now have all those concepts in your head, which means you can now explore. You're not going to die because you now have basic defense and basic good movement, postures, etc. So you can actually, safely explore jiu-jitsu. And that's why blue belt's the longest belt, because like there's so much to explore. It's the buffet belt. You don't know what you like. You don't know the kind of person you're going to be. Explore, figure it out, try something new all the time. And the more you can kind of really lose yourself in that, actually the faster the blue belt will be. Purple belt is like now you actually have, like, you've tasted everything. You can actually start to play the blueprint for the kind of fighter, the black belt you're going to be. You've got, you can make a honest choice now. Brown belt is then defining that and really settling into that, and then black belt is you are that fighter, and you can answer those questions because you have a full understanding of the concepts and you've put them to work. That then overcomes physicality, age, etc., etc. So, and that's what I kind of look for in the guys in my gym, is that where are they on that line? Because I call it the string. It's not just like, each individual belt. It blends. Like, at what point is it more blue than white? It isn't just, I guess that's where kind of stripes come in. It just blends in. Eventually it's more blue than white, and that's when they're a blue belt. And then it just blends into purple. What I consider as fundamentals. Everyone has this idea of fundamentals. So I actually asked someone to this recently. It's what Preet's favorite question. What would be the first guard you'd teach? And we've all done jiu-jitsu for a little bit of time now. And most of the time, the first guard that everyone says is close guard. Why? I remember Preet doing it to me because I said close guard. So don't think that I'm just picking on people here. Like, I was as guilty as anyone. Preet said, well, why close guard? No, like, it's all like maybe the first one we ever taught, but that's kind of considered fundamental, or you have to know close guard. But it's not taught with any context of why we actually play close guard. It's not taught with how it applies to any other part of jiu-jitsu. It's just, this is close guard. And then you're not taught anything that, like, what came before it, like open guard. And then that's why you have this whole, ankles tied together problem with white belts, and that they get their close guard and their ankles are locked together because they're terrified of what comes afterwards. They think, if as soon as my legs open, I'm just going to get it past. Then that's not a fundamental. Like, go back further. Like, you're given side control and mount and north-south, and they're all three very different positions, supposedly. And you do a mount class, and it's very different to the side control class. And then you have the question of, how do you move in between the two? Well, that's not fundamental, then, is it? Like, that's actually quite complicated. If moving between these things is complicated. So can we take it back further? Yeah. Be in their armpits. That's what a defining characteristic of all these things is. And if you do that enough, eventually you start to create side control, mount, and north-south. And you don't have the question of how do you flow in between the three. So there is always... People have this idea of fundamentals, and it's normally the fundamentals that they were taught at the beginning of their jiu-jitsu career without actually understanding, was that fundamental? Probably not. I mean, probably my stuff's not even that fundamental. It's quite complex, maybe. Can I go back further? That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to find a more clear and refined way of getting back to the beginning. Any tips, Roy? I'm probably missing things, but I'll try my best. Any tips for a 4-year 3-stripe white belt who's trying to get their blue belt? I think it goes back to that string. Is as long as you ain't dying on the mats, like, focus more on your defense, definitely. And imagine where you are blending into that blue belt. Like, definitely be more curious, especially if you've been in for like 4 years. You're like, there are guys in my gym who they're wondering why I'm keeping them at blue belt, is because they've actually, this is like the ego belt, definitely, is that they get the belt and now they're terrified. The target's too big already, and they have a game that works for them, and they won't step out of it. And which that strangles their progression, because how that might work now, but the second I take you out of it, you're not gonna have any idea what to do. So really, open your mind. Like my progression worked best around about that level, is because I just went, right, well, I wonder what would happen if I just played this for a month. And I sucked at a lot of things, but it gave back in those days I was a closed guard triangle guy. Closed guard was king to me. Oddly enough, now I'm a half guard Delahiva guy, half guard reverse Delahiva, leg locker, amazing. But I wouldn't have found that out if I hadn't have just stepped out for a moment. If I'd let my ego reign supreme, I would have never investigated. So don't be more aggressive. The exact opposite, actually. Like if you're not dying on the mats and you've got enough defensive knowledge behind you to play, be super curious. Like look up everything. You don't know enough yet to make an opinion, so there's no point sticking to a certain technique. What kind of tactics should jiu-jitsu grapplers use to be effective? I'm reading the questions out to try and help the answers. Otherwise, it's just me randomly saying shit out loud. Just actually pretty hilarious. Kind of tactics. Chris Hoy said this really well. Like the 4 rules of jiu-jitsu, which is be the person on top. Number 2, stay on top, win on top. Number 3, have a guard you shall not pass. Number 4, do not forget rule number 1, due to the seductive nature of guard. I like that. Yeah, be the guy on top. You don't get anywhere near as tired. Competitively or whatever. As much as we had that argument earlier that guard is good. Whoever scores the first point usually wins in jiu-jitsu, statistically. So, and it's because it's crushing. I've competed enough times. If you're down on the scoreboards and you're underneath someone, it's heartbreaking because you're fighting from a shitty position. You're tired, probably gassing, due to not being able to control yourself, and the other person's on top. You're down on points. It's a mental game at that point in time. And it's the same with anyone. If you're just under someone losing, it's soul crushing. So tactics, work more on top. And as I said that, this is kind of picking on Naki here. I know he's here, so let's pick on him. Naki is super powerful, and if I hadn't have put Naki under pressure, he would have never developed a guard game because he wouldn't have had to. Beating the guy on top is a good thing, but if you're always the guy on top, you never develop a bottom game. So work your jiu-jitsu to be the guy on top, but also be curious enough to play the bottom just in case. Jiu-jitsu's vast and amazing, and I've been doing it for a long time now, and I love the idea that I'm black belt, whatever, and there's still so little I know about this whole thing, and I'm still so curious about it. And if you haven't got that curiosity as well, and you've only been training a year, holy hell, your brain should be exploding. Yeah, so it was that's the thing of so Knack is that he was amazing on top. He could just obliterate people, and I needed to force him to play on his back, and now he's got a killer card game, and he's super curious about it, which is brilliant because now he's a demon everywhere. That's why the guy's a brown belt. How do you change your own style in jiu-jitsu? Curiosity. You don't know enough, so be curious. That's the best advice I can give. Always be curious. Even now, I'm still curious. Even now, I still go, I wonder what would happen if I do this. And that will change your style. It's ego and thinking that you've finished will stop you changing your style in jiu-jitsu. It should more for the time. You're always changing. Your body's always changing. You're getting older. Your personality changes. You become calmer, whatever. or more violent. And that will change your jiu-jitsu. It should. And so you should be able to adapt with those changes. What are your thoughts on learning and using simple versus complex techniques and concepts? All concepts in jiu-jitsu should be super, super, super simple. Like they should just be boiled down to, if it's not super simple, then it hasn't been explained right. Techniques, like anything that comes afterwards out of that concept, there's nothing really complex in jiu-jitsu. It's all just interpretations of the same concepts. Like you could look at rubber guard and think, oh no, okay, brilliant example, worm guard. Now you can look at worm guard and go, right, oh, damn, that's really complex. Like, what the hell? Why am I putting my foot through there and wrapping that through there? And we'll wait there. Boiled it down into its component concepts. Where's his foot? It's in your armpit. What is he holding on to? He's holding on to your gi. Where does that gi go? Through to your other, it creates a tension through to your other armpit and behind your head. What's it wrapped around? The back of your knee. Cool. So you're saying that it's controlling, he's got something, either mine or his, in those 5 control points of my body. And he's controlling probably about 4 of them. No wonder this feels like hell. Yeah. And so how do you unwind that? If you managed to get your jacket back, that'd release your knee plus your posture plus your armpits. Even if you didn't release your gi, if you could pummel his foot in between your legs, that would free your armpit. Yeah, it's not complex. None of it is. It's all boiled down to this super simple ideas. Lapel guards, everything. Like again, it's a direct line to your armpit. The gi is an extension into your armpit. That's what I love about the gi, is that when people think, oh, how do you change from gi to no gi? Well, the gi is just an extension of your arm at times. Like I pull the gi out to be like a longer version of my hand. And I'm looking at where I'm holding on the gi. Is it affecting the armpit and neck? Otherwise, there's no point in holding that place. Maybe I should do a session on that. I hope that made sense. Yeah, so when I'm actually using the gi, I'm actually thinking, right, is this controlling the armpit, neck, or behind the leg? And that's the point I grab. And it's no different to how I'd grab anyway. So when I look at stuff like lapel guard, I'm thinking, damn, he's just not having like a really long arm over the back to the other guy's armpit, whilst also holding the guy's head down. Damn, that's pretty cool. But it's still no different to the concept. It's still just the concept at play. There is no super complex stuff in jiu-jitsu when you understand the concepts behind it all. Any tips for chaining submissions? Yes. This is like my favorite thing right now. So I look at it in the sense of like a major and a minor control. When you have a guard, side control, whatever, mount, whatever, you have major control. You're holding the trunk of that person. When you go for a submission, especially joint lock, you're going to a minor control. You're giving up control of the trunk for just a limb. You've freed up 75% of their body. You goddamn better hope that your control matters. Like, the amount of times I see people transition from having a major control to a minor control, and there's transition sloppy into a minor control that is ineffective. Like, Jesus, you need to be working on something else. And this is like, I actually remember speaking of like, Naki, what's gone? I might be here messaging me saying the whole thing's falling apart. Let's find out. Have I gone dead? It's gone off. It says I'm still live. Well, hey, I'm back. Sorry. Hopefully that gets fixed. Must be an internet problem. Anyway, yes, I was talking about Mr. Danaher. I went to one of his seminars a few years ago, and this is like me, stupid, purple belt. So this is the problem when it comes to control. He did this seminar on Ashi, heel hooks. And part one was just lying on the other person's leg and them trying to run away whilst you are lying on their leg. And eventually, after an hour of doing Ashi, we got to the finish. And because of my silly purple belt brain, that's all I cared about, is how do you break this goddamn person's leg? Despite the fact that took up 10 minutes of an hour seminar. And this wasn't him showing a setup or anything like that. It's just him walking through the position. And this is my own stupid fault. I wish I'd looked at it for what it was. Minor control of that minor point is more important than the finish. If you've got perfect control and perfect transition into good control of that joint, the finish will just come. And so when I talk about chaining submissions and just submissions in general, I look at it as in chaining the minor control. And even if you have like perfect minor control of like a leg or something, you're going to get any submission you want. Ankle lock, heel hook, inside, outside, knee bar, whatever. And if you've got a full understanding of what constitutes good control and bad control, and that when you're losing control, you'll then be able to figure out, right, how do I move to the next joint or move back to a major control, which will then me to move to another minor control. That's how I change submissions together now, is that I understand I'm working on my minor control. I want to make sure that I have that perfect, and then finishes just come super easy. I hope that makes sense. I think that's kind of the problem with like this thing about Danaher or I mean, he's brilliant. Obviously, he gets a lot of results, but just seminars in general. Like I remember, we've booked loads over the history of our club because we had no other way of learning jiu-jitsu, and it was all, here is a setup that I use into a finishing thing. Oh, he's about to come back and tell me, he's lost me again. Cool. This seems fine. Yeah, as cheers, Knack. As good as John is, and as amazing he is, and I've had loads of seminars in the past of various people. It's always been the same of, here's a setup, here's a finish. And it's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, game changing. Never even thought of that. And then they never use it. Just go away. The seminar is pointless. And there's always, can you explain a little more? Yes, I will. Because there's never underlying concepts behind it. And there's always so many steps, and you don't remember the steps, and you don't understand why you need those steps, and the whole thing was just a waste of time and money. If you could understand the steps and understand what you're actually aiming for and giving good context, seminars will be better. I think that's probably one of the reasons why Danaher's thing was good, like a seminar I had with him, except the context on all those of the various points were maybe a bit lost, and so I didn't get the full benefit that I could have. And maybe it's different now. It's been 4 years. This is one thing I always say, is that the second I ever say something out loud, it's out of date. Is that by even saying it out loud, I understand it better now in my head, which means that it's out of date and you need to come back to me and I'll tell you again. So despite the fact that I've already just explained minor and major control, I've been asked, and now I actually understand it more and I can explain it better. So I keep having to check just because I'm paranoid now because it lost the stream at one point. That's cool. Major control. We all have the major control points. We understand those. It's um, side control, mount, north, south, just general control of the trunk, the core, the body. The major controls like guard, etc. Minor control is when you've pretty much moved away from all that and you're just holding on to a limb. So imagine ashy or spider web, jiznak, or any of those things. You're no longer controlling side control. You're no longer in guard. Imagine when you've gone for like an arm bar in guard. You're no longer in a guard really, and if you lose that arm, you're just going to get stacked and passed super fast. So you goddamn better make sure that arm you've gone for in guard is perfect, and it's one of the reasons people really don't go for it. Because if it goes wrong, holy hell, it's going to hurt. How do you fix that? You make sure that you get really good control. Don't, and this is a peeve of mine when it comes to drilling, is that people just want to do like 10 reps, like, entry, hold, sub, entry, hold, sub. Do it 10 times, change over. No. Like, it should be no entry, like maybe a little bit at the end. Finish, we'll do that like 5%, but 95% of the time should be about fully understanding that control position, not just drilling it like 10 times, but actually really understanding this minor control, because you've just given up major control for a minor control. You should be like understanding fully how to hold on to that leg, like how to bite onto it, how to make sure you're fully above the knee line. That they could like, the only way they're going to get their leg back is if they cut the thing off. Once you have that, you'll know the entries because you know what you're looking for, especially if you have the whatever the precursor concept was, like in or out guard, etc. And the finishes come easier the better you have those controls. Like if I've got a full bite on someone's femur and I've got a full bite across their heel, it ain't going to take a lot to get a heel hook. It's only when it's like a weak control that submissions take longer and are actually harder to finish. Like next time you're in the gym, like perfect example is go for an armbar and like just do a regular relaxed legs armbar, but then do it again where you pull the arm hard through your legs. Like so you almost got the collarbone like on the this side of your thighs. Pinch the ever loving shit out of it, and then go for the armbar, and you see how fast they tap. That's the difference when it comes to minor control points. You either have terrible and the submission takes ages, or you rag the arm through and pinch the hell out of it, and you see how fast that submission comes on. Definitely homework, shall we say. I'm going to have a drink. I've been talking for like an hour. Thank you for the questions, by the way. I know this is... I need to have some way of like Naki being able to message me without having to check my phone. No, we're still going. Please give me feedback on this. It's my first time doing this live, and I've definitely learned a lot on not reading the chat at the same time as I'm talking, because it definitely just distracts me. Sorry to anyone listening to this on Spotify. This is a odd listen, I am sure. Go check out the YouTube. There's a way, I don't know how any of this works. I'm going to see if I can actually save the chat so people can read it afterwards and see what I was put through. Hopefully, we'll have Naki back and we can record Reap the Week properly. It's not the same without him. Have I missed anything? No. Yeah, hopefully Naki will be back soon and we can do proper Reap the Weeks. It's always fun having him on the other side of the camera and just throwing shade at each other. When do you think you'll attempt to travel again? I've had one of my vaccines. Makes life easier. Well, that is currently illegal for us to leave the UK. As soon as it becomes legal, I'm out of here. Like, anyone wants me, come get me. Like, tell me where. Give me location. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Um, Best KO of the weekend, Usman by far, because it looked like he Beetlejuice twisted his head around, like holy hell, that thing was put on backwards, like uh, how can someone not like that was although someone but yeah, Naki comes like pre-packaged, like you get me, you get Naki these days. Um, yeah, he put on like Masvidal's head backwards. Although someone did say something quite funny about the whole funny, but the whole Weidman fight is that I think that makes Hall the first person to beat someone without throwing a single strike. Such a weird way of seeing that. Pittsburgh or Ashburn summer? Yes, you will. Finally, I'll meet you, Parker. By the way, I've messaged Parker this on the Discord channel. If anyone just wants to chat with me in general, obviously you can message me in the Discord channel, the Facebook, website, email, Instagram. I check all these things. Or message me. We can set up a Skype call. I'm happy to do this kind of thing on Skype if you want to ask me questions. As soon as I got my home gym sorted, like I can definitely answer some questions really effectively. So just chat to me. I'm quite a talkative person. Thought on Valentina's ground control. Would you consider a pin? Sorry, I keep drinking coffee. Yeah, she controlled her armpits. Did she have me a crucifix and start killing her? Yeah, she had her armpits. Like that's as good as anything. Like, this is what I try and step away from this idea of side control, north, south, mount, etc. Like, I have very, very adaptive controls on top, depending on what I need. Like, my side control is never behind the person's head because most of the time, because I'm quite long, the gap between my shoulder and my hip is quite long. So if I try and get my hip into someone's armpit whilst I'm also around their head, it isn't going to reach. And it's enough space for them to get their upper arm back in and frame on me. So it actually makes more sense for me to get my arm on the other side of their head and move my hip closer into their armpit, which wouldn't be like a normal side control. And then angle it a bit more off and probably control the other hip. And so now it looks like some sort of weird 45-degree side control north south move. And then when I go for mount, I'm barely over mount. Like I have my foot slightly over the hip, my knee pinched into the other hip, and my hip is still in their armpit. Oddly enough, like it's really strange. I'm definitely have to go and film it just so you guys can understand the positions I'm in. But I never separate them, and so if she gets into her armpits, yeah, there was a pin. Favorite grapplers, you guys. I don't try and obviously I enjoy watching jiu-jitsu whenever I can. Just rare. But I think I look at jiu-jitsu in a much different way in that it's gonna sound strange because it's like a more in-depth answer to a really small question. I love this sport so much and I love anyone that ever comes into it. Brute said it really well, is that just because someone is a black belt or white belt in this doesn't make them a black belt or white belt in life. Like I am no deity or god or anything close to it. And people who look at black belts in that way and call them professor is strange as fuck. And I give anyone, doesn't matter what level of jiu-jitsu, or the same respect, because you're as human as I am. Like I just happen to know more about this arcane version of fighting. Why does that make me better? Just I have something maybe to offer to people who understand a bit more about fighting. So that's why I'm doing this. But other than that, I have no real benefit to humanity. People are way more important than I am. So my favorite grapplers are anyone who ever comes on the mats, really. Because they've always got something new to show me. I learn more playing with white belts and explaining this than I do any other time in jiu-jitsu. Favorite MMA fighter. So to watch MMA, I've always loved Jim Miller. He's just gritty, and it just makes me so happy. Especially like his early fights when he was like, had some really interesting jiu-jitsu. Chris Lytle as well. Chris Lytle was such a big inspiration to me when I started out jiu-jitsu. Like his inverted triangle game. Like I just copied the shit out of that. Like, um, I miss those days of MMA where Chris Lytle and Jim Miller and those people are around. Oh well, people these days won't understand. What was beautiful? Or am I being humiliated? Probably the both. Anyway, ruined my video watching. Yeah, you should say when it comes to the guard stuff. Like, yeah, if you think about the 5 points of control, the armpits and head thing, like it's hilarious. Like watching like high level guys playing guard, like watching like Haffa do passing and he never lets anyone in those spaces. Goddamn love it. And they're like, oh my god, Haffa moves incredibly. Yeah, he just doesn't let anyone in those spaces, and then just tries to climb into yours. You're a bad influence on these things, Naki. You're aware of that, don't you? Anyway, thank you for turning out for this inaugural live version of Reap the Week. It has been emotional. Thank you for everyone who's turned out and gone in the chat. I will schedule another one of these in. Like obviously, this was a bit short notice. I had the idea yesterday. I was like, "Oh, I've got no Naki. How can I do to fix this?" So solve jiu-jitsu in one line. Who's that? No, I have no idea. I have to talk to him afterwards. Thank you for your time and actually like coming on here and just like humoring me for an hour. I love doing this. I could talk for jiu-jitsu forever, but it's also approaching midnight here. I've got to be up at 4:00. Yeah, please, any questions or anything like that, please send them my way. I can't wait to actually get back in the gym and make videos like this. I think I will pass to Naki to do that very, very soon. So if you go on the Discord channel or comment on this afterwards for any actual techniques you want to see, please send them over. Yeah, thank you to everyone for jumping on this and humoring me and giving me your time. It may not be big numbers, but doesn't matter. Like I just love the fact that people want to talk jiu-jitsu with me. Yeah, see you on the Discord channel. This has been Villaincast. Half of Reap the Week with just the villain. Thank you.